Yo, okay, so don't mind my burn. I might explain that later. Anyways, so this was an extremely basic project. I wanted to make dish protectors for the dishware so that it doesn't chip when it gets put away into the cabinet. So I just kind of made up a pattern that was kind of sort of a thing. Since I don't really know how to read patterns yet, I just sort of made one up. I have successfully read one pattern. I made a giraffe. I didn't really do it right. But anyways, okay, so here's the thing. You start with the slip knot, of course, you know, how you start everything. And I try to show it slowly and, like, easily, but honestly, the best way to learn how to do this, in my opinion, is that Lucinda Guy book. Her and her husband, Francis Hall, I think is his name, make Crochet for Kids, which is the best book. You should definitely look into it. Look for it if you have it in your library. Anyways, so for a slip knot, it is one big basic P loop, and then you tuck another loop into it to make, you know, you don't have to do it this big. I'm just trying to make it to where you can see what's happening. And then you hold that thread on while you pull tight on your tail and to the end by the yarn. So this is just my big dramatic example of how you make the slip knot. You definitely don't need it to be that long. Okay, anyways, don't mind me. I have no train of thought today. I've been so stressed out that I have no brain. So that's why I have to work on things like this. Stress just continues. So anyways, so I tried to make a pattern for this, but it's really loose. If you feel like as you're going you need to adjust it, just adjust it. So I start by making the slip knot. Once I feel like that's good and kind of placed, I start to do the magic circle or magic ring. I really don't know how to explain how to do that other than making a loop over your hand, and then when you do your single crochet, you just make sure you're looping around your two loops in your hand. It's messy, but it's also not entirely necessary for it to be a magic circle. You could always start with a chain, and then you do a chain of about like 4 to 8, depending on how much of a loop you want on the inside. I would do maybe like a chain of 5 and then loop it to itself, but you will have a tiny little peek hole in the middle, but that doesn't make any difference. It's just kind of decorative. This is for a play protector, but also you can use these circles for other things. I don't quite remember what exactly I saw other people say that they used these for. I only remember seeing coaster, dish protector, and face wash circle wipe thing. I forget what those are called, but anyways, I have a train of thought. So magic ring, 8 loops around, since I'm using a really thick yarn. This isn't yarn, it's macrame rope, which is, I felt like it'd be more waterproof and sturdier for this particular thing. So definitely consider using macrame rope if you crochet, because the different textures are a lot better than just soft yarn, which isn't great for everything. So anyways, you do the 8 in your magic loop, and then you pull your magic loop tight, assuming you're doing it this way and not just a chain. And then an increase in every hole, sort of. So work in rounds, and then you would do 2 stitches in each hole, which is an increase. It's just do a single crochet and then do another single crochet in the exact same hole, and then move to the next hole, do the same thing, a single crochet, another single crochet, move to the next hole. So that's an increase. So you do an increase for the entire round. Technically it should be an increase for every single circle, but the way that the yarn or rope will start to pull as you go, you do need to incorporate a few rounds that are just single crochets but done very loosely, so that you now have enough room for your hook to actually fit into all your holes, because they start to get pretty tight as you go trying to make this. And don't worry if it curls up a little bit, because it doesn't make much difference for the product. I mean, it's not all that fancy of a product. It's just a beginner kind of get used to the motions of crochet sort of thing. This is really just to try to kind of figure out where you put your hook, like getting used to what the holes are and stuff. I felt like this would have been a much more beginner friendly than the giraffe kit that I tried to do. So anyways, I also recommend working with one of those clippy things. I don't know what those are called. Those round things, so you know where the beginning and the end is. And then just kind of working in rounds. It's definitely not perfect, and it doesn't really matter. Also, if you're doing the little one for like a teacup, I did it about 8 rounds out. And then if you're going to do it bigger for like a big plate, I would do like 4 rounds more than the little one, 4 or 5 rounds more. Just kind of measure with what plates you have. It definitely does not need to be the full size of the plates, just the bottom part. So anyways, you want to know how I burnt myself? You know Pop-Tarts. Well, I'm allergic to Pop-Tarts, so I haven't been able to have actual name brand Pop-Tarts, but there's this other Pop-Tart that I can have, which is called a Legendary Pastry. And it's not technically a Pop-Tart. It goes in the microwave. But anyways, I microwave them for way longer than they say, because the 10 seconds, it's not warm enough at 10 seconds. So I put it in for 30 seconds, sometimes longer. Anyways, a bunch of the filling dripped out onto my chin and immediately melted a piece of my skin off. Like, immediately. I felt it. It was so tragic. That doesn't make me deterred from those pastries. Oh, it's hysterical. I still like those things. They're great. But anyways, yeah, I burnt myself on it. And now every time I see it, I want one of the pastries. I'm a glutton. Anyways, so you just kind of, for this, you have to eyeball what your round needs as you're going. If you need it to be an increase row, or if you need it to be a single crochet row, depending on can you get your hook to fit in the hole twice, is really how I went about it. Because sometimes the stitching starts to get so tight I couldn't fit an increase, which I couldn't fit the second stitch in with my first stitch, so I would just use that whole row as a loose single crochet stitch row. Does that make any sense at all to anyone but me? Yeah, maybe. So then when you tuck your ends, you need the tapestry needle. So you just kind of need to knot it. It really isn't all that fancy. And then pull the needle through it a little bit and trim the end off. That's it. But I definitely recommend an additional knot or 2 just to keep it from unraveling. And then it's done. I mean, it's easy. Those are fast. And you can make as many as you want. Yeah. Anyways, I did 2 different thicknesses, the gray and the purple, because I was just kind of working with macrame rope that I took out of my mom's macrame tub. So, I mean, you can kind of just do whatever. This is really just a get used to. Also, I recommend, if you are still trying to get used to what stitches look like and how you put your hook in the stitching, to use something more like the rope, because yarn is so soft that you accidentally wind up going in between the yarn and not actually through like the whole bit, you know, and it like comes all out. I don't know what words to explain that very well. But anyways, yarn is hard to learn with. This kind of thing is much easier because it's like a little waxed. It's together. You can really see where it begins and ends. It's got nice shadows, so you can see your stitching really easily as you're trying to get used to what crochet is. So I recommend using a rope, a macrame rope, or waxed yarn at the very least, if you have wax, or if you can buy waxed yarn. We used to have the wax that my great-grandmother had in her house that she would wax yarn with, but we could not find it anywhere. So I was then going to make myself a little wax block, which would have worked, I think, if the sun still kept coming out. I was going to melt it in the sun porch because that's where I melt the coconut oil, but maybe beeswax has a different melting point than coconut oil. I don't know. Anyways, you just layer your dishes with these thingies so that they don't clank and chip when you put them on the shelf. I don't feel like I made any sense, but hey, bye.